Here we are, second video of the day, second video to analyze, and I think I'm going to get this in time. So let's talk about Tribe versus Foot. This game, I think, surprised quite a few of us, but it also made sense given Guesty wasn't there. Now Guesty is the key drafter for Foot. He's been told to be the main drafter and like helping out, choosing picks, whatever, but now that he's not here, and he said that he's not helping with the draft, you could probably see that there were cracks during this game. I'm going to go through them and show how Tribe have gone from a mediocre team in NA to potentially being a top 4 team in this tournament. Let's crack on with Hard Rock Mine Gem Grab. Starting in Gem Grab, this felt like Edgar 1v3. Tribe, Sphinx and Lumi were just controlling brawlers who occasionally took down the Kenji when he showed up, but the showman was Edgar, played by Luffy, taking down Foot one by one over and over again. And they had a decent draft. Kenji is a great tank, Stu a great mid for control and gem carry with his dash to escape the Edgar if he needs to, and Nita as the tank counter. However, I think Nita is going to struggle against Edgar because of her damage output and the fact that she needs to get fairly close to Edgar to make things happen. I would have rather picked a Chester, for example. I mean, Nita's not bad by any means. I just think Chester, maybe Colette or Clancy would have done better, even Ems. But Luffy was just incredible on this Edgar. He played the perfect game, jumping around, taking down the gem carriers and stopping Foot from entering Tribe's half. Luffy only died 4 times, 3 times in game 1 and twice to a Kenji super. I think that just shows how poorly Foot dealt with him. The fact that the main tank counter wasn't actually tank countering. And I say tank counter even though they didn't have like a tank counter, but the point is you need to stop the Edgar by all means possible. And Foot just failed to do that. Luffy just dominated game 1 and 2 and Foot esports. Despite a good draft and cohesion, they were very slow off the mark whilst Tribe were racing ahead. And game 2, Brawl Ball, Super Beach, Edgar's back. I don't know why they didn't ban him, and they didn't really have a counter to him either. They picked up the cord and even a Lumi was some kind of counter, but I feel like over 60% of the time Luffy was just winning those duels again and again. In fact, the cord wasn't the best. He wasn't really good at all. Tribe win game 1 very comfortably, and in game 2 there was a moment where Luffy could have stopped the goal, but a gadget error prevented Edgar jumping over the wall, which allowed the ball to go through on goal, which looked like a very lucky trick shot, but I think it would have been a goal anyway. Or maybe it was pure skill, I don't know. Tribe could then level the gap, but Foot make a comeback to tie it 1-1. And into the final game of Brawl Ball, Foot were finding their rhythm actually and understanding how to stop the Edgar in their various ways. Unless they just forgot about him and let him score immediately. But then Lumi and Cordy lock in, using their utility and mechanics much better and can stop the Edgar a few times. One which leads to them equalising the goal, and the Lumi Hyper can put the game to rest, restoring their balance in an intense game. I will say Foot shouldn't have made that a 3-game set. It could have been won much faster if they had banned the Edgar or chosen a better tank counter like Chester or Colette. I mean, they had a cord and a Lumi, which is fine. In my opinion, I don't think they were the best, and I think you could see that Luffy just kept jumping over them, kept like using the healing punches, whatever the star power is called. It was just dominating. It was really sad to see on the behalf of Foot, but they managed to win somehow, and well, they're going into game 3 hopefully without an Edgar, and luckily it's knockout out in the open, so very unlikely for an Edgar to be here. I will say that the drafts of both teams is a little unusual. It almost feels like Foot have gone with some kind of South America draft with Pearl, and Tribe have adopted like an East Asia draft with the Fang. It was quite a dominant performance from Foot though, as Tribe just didn't really unlock their potential on their brawlers. Meeple got 0 kills, Fang missed some dives, and Angelo didn't really make the impact I expected him to. Angelo on Mina, however, was a fantastic partnership with Nob on Byron, even charging the back line, so really well played from Foot there, and that gives them the 2-1 advantage. Now on to game 4. This was an awful draft from Foot. But with Tribe, they had pretty good balance. Pierce for the long range, Melody for that main safe damage, and then the Fink surprised quite a lot of us. However, I think Tribe picked him up to cover the 8-bit lane so that they could slow down his bullets, just get around and close to him and just take him down, stopping him from getting anywhere near Tribe's safe. So it might have been a really clever pick here. Foot also went with Nadia and Shade. Now the Shade confused me a little because first of all, the walls are vertical on this map, so you're not really hiding behind them unless you're like defending or whatever. So I didn't really like this pick. I can see why it'd work, but I just didn't like it. And Nadia is a great pick, but I just don't think it was unlocked really here. I think she kind of just was present. She wasn't as dominating or as broken as she is in like your monthly finals or scrims or whatever. She was just there. But into the main gameplay, I'm not sure why 8-bit was on the left lane and alone. I think synergizing with Shade in the middle would have helped a little more. But Tribe are creating immense pressure and are easily reaching Foot safe again and again to take it down and win game 1. The second game, we find the Shade and 8-bit synergy on the left lane, and for the first time 8-bit can hit the Tribe safe. He manages to get there 2 more times, and the immense damage lets Foot level the game once more and are 1 game away from winning their first group stage match. But Tribe break through the Foot defense and crack down the safe, defend in the final moments and claim the set win, meaning that we are going to head to a 5-set game and a match point. It's a really, really intense game, and Tribe were adapting excellently and playing really well. I don't know what's going on with Tribe, but they're definitely here at Brawl Cup, I'll tell you that. But Foot, their drafting was pretty poor, and I expected a lot more from them, but maybe they can bring it back in Bounty Layer Cake. And our favourite brawler is back, it's Edgar, and I don't understand why Foot haven't banned him. Please note that this many number of teams, I don't know the exact number, but this many number of teams have either banned or global banned Edgar today. And I don't know why Foot haven't realised they should have banned him too. Because I would say without Edgar, Tribe wouldn't have done this well. Either way, Foot clearly weren't distraught from the gem grab game and the Brawl Ball game that they thought they'd countered him, which is somewhat true, but in my opinion, I don't think it was as good as a counter as they thought it was. But either way, they take the Mortis and Penny, which isn't bad picks, but I feel like they needed a tank counter or just a counter, high damage output, anti-tank, whatever, to deal with the Edgar. And you know what? I've kept saying his name here, it's Chester. Guess who picked him up? Tribe. Editing Kaiju here, you can see Chester was like pre-selected for Foot. It really angers and confuses me that they chose Penny first, because realistically you want to make sure your Edgar counter is selected first before the other team selected. For example, I don't know if it was an oversight, I don't know what happened. They should have selected that, and it's really disappointing from Foot. The other thing that I didn't mention in the video was Lenane's performance. Fantastic today, no one blame him. He was the top player for Foot along with Angel Boy. They were brilliant together, really well done from him. Best of luck for him when he leaves Brawl Cup, because he's got a lot of potential. Anyway, end of this, sorry for the rant. Along with Lumi, the two probably best brawlers in the meta right now, and have been sniped from Foot. I don't even know, because Foot just left him. They went for a control brawler and then Mortis. I'm really confused by that, and that means Foot have to go with a core to try and stop this Edgar by all means possible. And you'll see why core isn't in the meta anymore. It began with Mortis being one tapped by the Chester and Edgar surviving a close encounter where he gets 2 takedowns. And then Tribe were just dominating the rest of game 1, almost unchallenged and just in cruise mode. They were so relaxed and calm. Game 2 was a stalemate until the last 30 seconds, where an Edgar hypercharge snipes a Penny and escapes before the Mortis arrives. And it stayed really close all the way to the end, where Mortis dashed in but couldn't get any takedowns. And that meant Tribe won against Foot, won the game, won the set and won the match. And they are in prime position to become first seed in this group D. Wow, wow, wow. I cannot believe I'm saying this. I am impressed with Tribe. I mean this really honestly, they were poor in NA. Haven't won a monthly final, they bottled 2 grand finals, and their drafting wasn't amazing. But they've definitely improved since coming to Brawl Cup. They're mechanically better, their playstyles are better, stronger chemistry, better teamwork, and maybe the Edgar was hard carrying them in game 1 and 5, even game 2. I mean, if you're a Tribe supporter, you just don't care. You've won against Foot, you've won against the top seed in EMEA, and you're on track to beat Humble, the number 2 seed in the semi-finals if they make it. Let's be honest, they've struggled in group stages in any LAN tournament, but this is actually the best opportunity and best position Tribe have been in a few years to make it to a grand final. Their first grand final in a LAN tournament. And although they almost bottled it against Toxic Lotus, we're just going to ignore that and we're going to look at the happy things for Tribe. They could crash out against Revenant X Spark. Hopefully not, just so that we can see them do well. I mean, if they do, then I'm going to go back to saying Tribe aren't that great. Put that aside for now, they've got a good chance. And I really hope they can do well, because it'd be really big for NA and would actually tell the other regions NA is on the map to be in a good region and it's time to lock in. But for Foot, well, they're clearly missing their draft master. The brawlers they chose were just good brawlers and that's about it. What makes a brawler great and the best on the map is how it affects a game and an overall draft. And it only really happened in Brawl Ball and maybe Knockout, but the Heist and Bounty drafts were just not there. And it's rather worrying as a number 1 team in EMEA that your drafts are letting you down, especially being the highest win rate team in scrims. This is not a good look for Foot. Okay, maybe if they banned Edgar, it would have been a lot closer. But since they left Edgar open, they just let Tribe do whatever they want. They literally played into their game plan and they paid the ultimate price. But here we are, Tribe have made it to a quarter final. I don't know how long it's been since they've made it here, but best of luck Tribe and best of luck Foot as well. Here are the stats by the way for Luffy, incredible game. The average player, pro player is a 1 and he got a 1.3 rating, incredible, dealing more damage than expected and other stats that don't go over my head, but I just wanted to share them because they're really interesting from BSC RGG on X, and I think it's something to be proud of for Luffy, especially how much he struggled in recent LANs. Anyway, enough yapping, I want to get to bed. Thank you for watching and I'll see you all later, Spratlings. Bye.